this should be fun.
I want some nasty. Are we having fun yet?
First and foremost, please excuse my fan, okay? It's hot girl summer over here, and your boy is very hot. It's way hotter than it should be. But we're going to be doing a mock draft today, and I have to say, I've been pretty hyped to do this for a little while. So I'm going to do top 14 picks, just 1 through 14, not top 14, just the top 14 pick. You know what I mean. All right, so we're going to be looking at 1 through 14, the lottery, and see who these teams may swing on. Now, I will be saying this, I want to go ahead and throw this out there now, is that a lot of mock drafts that I do see, oftentimes they talk about who they specifically think fits best with that team. I'm not necessarily going to do that, okay? So with a lot of these picks, what I decided to do was go back and look at recent history on what their GMs have said, also some of the prospects that they've shown interest in, and just based on what they've done in the past, what they have a tendency to do, essentially, right? So that's kind of where my mind is. That took merit over everything else. Now, a few of these picks, look, the franchise has been doing such a great job till I will just throw in, okay, I think that this is just the best player. So a few of these I had to break my own rules a little bit, but for the most part, that was my ideology here. Now, also, I want to go ahead and say this because it's going to be a pretty long video. I have literally like 32 tabs up. I'm not lying to you. It's literally 32 tabs up right now. And I also have obviously some notes on the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop timestamps below. So if there's any team that you want to just fast forward to, the timestamps are there so you don't have to worry about anything. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with the number 1 pick overall, Orlando Magic. And we're starting off by going over Mo Bamba. I know. So what I wanted to look at, because obviously it's been very open out there that they're going to be looking to move Mo Bamba. And in the top 3 picks, there's only really 3 picks that you really should be thinking about, right? I mean, let's be honest here. And when it comes to Mo Bamba, I just wanted to see what was it that they wanted out of Mo Bamba when they initially got him. And I have to say, they bring up his height like 55 times, like 78 times, like 3,452 times. They bring up this man's height. They did it continuously. But also just some of the tendencies that he have and what they wanted him to develop into in the NBA is very similar to one player that comes in mind for me. Now, there's only 2 players right now that they've said that they've been very open with, that they're actually willing to, draft, and that's Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren. So it really came down to those 2, and honestly, it's a coin flip, right? I think most people think Jabari Smith, but just based on some of the things that they said here about Mo Bamba, it reminded me way more of a Chet, honestly, just some of the things that they went over here. So I, surprise, went with Chet Holmgren at number 1. So I have the Orlando Magic taking Chet Holmgren with the number 1 overall pick. And honestly, I don't think him or Jabari Smith is a bad pick by any means, okay? I think it's fine. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. Obviously, we're going into OKC. Now, I wanted to look at their recent history and see what Sam Presti has said. And I didn't get much out of, honestly, the Giddey pick, other than he just loved the fact that he has passing ability, versatility, professional experience, and yeah, he's just talking about how he's very young and he had to develop over time, and it's typical GM stuff, right? There's nothing really there where I could just like pinpoint, but I did want to just look back and say, well, you know what, Sam Presti seems as if he doesn't really care about position much, and like I said, there's only like 3 right answers in the top 3, but he's not worried too much about position. Not only that, he's not really worried about how pieces fit. He seemed to have more of a ideology of, look, if you're talented, and I put the talent together, we'll figure it out later. So with that thought in mind, I think he's just going to go with the most talented player right now, and the player that's just going to put up a lot of buckets, and that is Banchero. So I have Banchero going to OKC at number 2, and I don't really think that they're going to look back on that one. All right, so let's go ahead and go into the next. Now, obviously, there's only 1 player left. I kind of gave it away. But hey, just for giggles, just for some funsies, we're going to look at Houston Rockets and see exactly what they have said about their pick. So we already know that they've been pretty open, saying that, oh yeah, we're willing to trade this pick away. And yeah, we don't know. But I will say this. they have brought this up quite a bit. Stone brings this up often, is that he does not mind about the development of a player. So if a player comes in and he's fairly raw, he's fine with it. He really believes in their developmental staff, and they're full on ready for this to be a process. So as far as a pick that they would take, that a guy that is NBA ready, but at the same time nowhere near where I personally think he will be. And adding on to that, he also said that he really wants a guy that has good character, or at least they get to scope people out for character and work ethic. That's just typical GM stuff, right? Like everyone says that. But the one guy that comes to mind when I think work ethic, when I think of, well, just give him a couple years, he's going to be pretty doggone good, is Jabari Smith. And one thing about Jabari Smith that I love, which is kind of wild, he's like an anime character, bro. Like there's literally a story out there where his mom told it, where he was jump roping in the middle of the winter outside, and his mom had to beg him to come back inside, and he's like, no, Mom, I just want to train. I don't know, he didn't say it like that, but yeah, so he was literally training outside, and then he would go to school early, ask his mom to take him to school early, and he would ask the custodian to let him in so he can practice before anyone gets to school. And you're thinking, oh, what was he, 16, 17? No, bro, he's like a 12-year-old or something. Like it's very strange. He was in middle school, I know that. All right, he was in middle school. That's so wild. But we're talking about work ethic. Jabari Smith is the guy that I think they'll go with, and I don't think you go wrong there. All right, so the Kings. Now this is going to be a controversial one, but you know what? The Kings are controversial, so I don't really care. I've been trying to really figure out what the heck the Kings are doing, what they want to do, and I have no idea. I'm dumbfounded. I have no idea what they're doing. I tried to look at anything as far as what their GM has said. They're not saying a ton. It's very confusing. As you guys know, they traded away Halliburton, which the entire NBA community was just like, huh? Why? So look, I still don't understand it. I don't know if they were doing it based on the fact that Fox is getting paid the big bucks and they just want him to have the responsibility. I don't know. It's very strange. It's very confusing. And then to add on to that, I just wanted to look at, I said, screw it. I don't know what they're doing, but I wanted to look at who have they shown interest in, because that's all I'm going to care about at this point. And the players that they have had draft visits and interviews with thus far, that's known to the public. Here are some of the names: Trevion Williams, Abaji, Kendall Brown, Tari Eason, Dyson Daniels. But you know what? I said, what's the most king-like picks out of this group? And you know what? Yeah, I think that the Kings will take a swing at Shaedon Sharpe. Not necessarily saying it's a bad pick. It's just one of those picks where it's like, ooh, that's a gamble, And one thing as well, because some people will bring this up, because I know a lot of people have said, no, man, they'll take Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey is not getting great press right now, and apparently he's falling quite a bit in teams' eyes. So I would not be surprised by any means if they say, screw it, we're going to go with Shaedon Sharpe, and we'll just see what happens there. All right, so let's go ahead and go into the next pick, in which we have the Detroit Pistons. So this is a quote from Weaver, in which he said, I just feel like my philosophy is we don't draft players, we draft people. We want to make sure we get the person right. More times than not, high picks that don't pan out the way people see it, you miss on the person. So what is he saying here? He's saying a lot of nothing. This gave me nothing. Like literally gave me nothing. Okay, we want to draft on people, I guess. Sure, I don't know if I really believe that. And another thing I wanted to look at was, I just want to look at, all right, who are some of the players that they are interested in, that they've shown interest in? And there's kind of a top four of sorts. So they have Keegan Murray here. They have Shaedon Sharpe, Jaden Ivey, and Benedict Mathurin. Okay, so these are the guys that they have shown a lot of interest in. And one thing that they've talked about quite a bit, or at least what Dwayne Casey talks about, which is so strange. So he says that he likes to ask the players if they make their beds. And the reason that he wants to ask that is because he wants to set the tone and how organized they are. He just wants to see what type of player they are. So basically what every GM says, he wants to see character, he wants to see discipline. So with that being said, I'm going to assume that when we're talking about maturity and we're talking about discipline, I'm going to just say that kind of transfers over to the court as well, right? So I was looking at who's the most NBA ready. So now I'm between Keegan Murray and Benedict Mathurin. So I'm choosing between those two. And the reason why I'm making the pick that I'm making is actually because of this. So I also looked into, and hopefully this can load up for me real quick. But yeah, I actually looked into who is it that Weaver typically goes after? Like what type of players does he typically like? And for some reason this isn't coming up, but oh, here it is. All right, so one thing that he always goes after is athleticism, and he goes after defense. Those seem to be some of the tendencies that he has. So with that being in mind, that he's going to go after a player that's athletic, that he likes player with defense, well, that still kind of goes for both of these guys, Keegan Murray and Benedict Mathurin. But yes, be honest, there's one player in particular when you think athleticism, and I'm going to go with Benedict Mathurin. So I have the Detroit Pistons taking Benedict Mathurin at number 5 based on his defense, based on his athleticism, and he basically fits with any team anyway. So I think that is a smart pick, and he's definitely more NBA ready and disciplined with his game than any of the other players that they're interested in. All right, so let's go ahead and go into the next order of business, in which we will be looking at the Pacers. So the Pacers, this is one quote that I took to heart, and maybe I took it way to heart, but one thing that they've said, Kevin Pritchard, who is the Pacers president, he said that they were manufacturing a star, that they were trying to manufacture a star, and that's why they sent out Sabonis. Now, he didn't say all of that, but come on, you can kind of insinuate what he meant by that. And Sabonis was even caught off guard by it, and he was like, wow. And then Pritchard later clarified that really what he meant was they had multiple stars on it. Yeah, whatever. So what he's trying to say is he didn't want to manufacture a star. He wants a guy that comes into the NBA that's already ready to ball and do what he has to do. They also showed, based off of last draft, that they're not afraid of drafting a certain age. They do not care. So with that being in mind, with them not necessarily caring as far as age, I have to go with only one player, which I think most people would agree with, is Keegan Murray. Fits in every aspect of the Pacers and what they're trying to do. And also, just on top of it, he's not a guy that you're going to necessarily have to manufacture. Man, that was bad. That was bad when he said that. All right, so next we have the Trailblazers. And this is one thing that we have to go ahead and just bring up, obviously, is that they got rid of C.J. McCollum. So C.J. McCollum was traded. Larry Nance, Tony Snell, they said, get out of here. We don't want you here no more. We don't like you. You're ugly. But I'm just kidding. That's not what happened. But yeah, what? Anyways, so I just wanted to see, all right, based on them getting rid of CJ McCollum, and based on the fact that it's been pretty obvious that they want to hold on to Dame and build anything they can around Dame, I just went into their defense. I was like, okay, what does their defense look like? And as you can see here, their defense is awful. 29th. So they were basically last in the NBA as far as defense. So with that being said, I also just wanted to see, okay, well, is there any preferences that they have? Like, is it just that, that they just got rid of CJ and they don't care about anything else? Well, no. Actually, they have been very open, or Cronin's been open, and he said, if there is a 2 guard that is head and shoulders above the other positions, I'm taking the 2 guard, then figuring it out later, basically. But the talent part, I can't dismiss to be able to compete at the level we want to compete at. So no matter what, he wants to take just straight up the talent. Like, who is probably the most talent, and if that's a 2 guard, then so be it. Well, I got news for you. I believe it is a 2 guard. And that 2 guard, I'm going to go with Johnny Davis. So I'm going with him because I think he would fit with Dame pretty well. They don't care about anything other than talent. And on top of it, I think that he adds on to their defense, which they have struggled defensively. And he's a pretty good defender. So I'm just going to go with Johnny Davis for the Portland Trailblazers. Just makes sense to me. But hey, yeah. What? All right, so Pelicans. All right, so Pelicans scare the crap out of me, okay? I absolutely hate the Pelicans because I'm a Spurs fan, so I hate the Pelicans. And I love the Pelicans as well. But they scare the crap out of me because they've been making so many good, sound decisions. So I'm going to cheat just a little bit as far as saying, well, you see what their tendency is. You see their tendency recently has been make the right move. So I'm going to go with whatever makes the most sense for their team. So right now, as we can see here, they are bottom of the barrel as far as three-point shooting, like god awful. 27th in the NBA as far as three-point shooting percentage at 33%. And adding on to that, also their defense isn't too hot either. It's kind of middle of the pack, but they're sitting right there at 18th. So not really something that really matters too much in the position that they're in, because one thing that they absolutely need is a catch and shooter, and they need a catch and shooter that can play a little bit of defense at least to get a little bit of physical. But why not just get the best catch and shooter in the draft? And that best catch and shooter is obviously AJ Griffin. I don't think that I think everybody saw that coming. But yeah, he's the best catch and shooter. They need a catch and shooter, and with the tendency of their GMs as of late, they've been making some really great calls, great decisions, great front office right now. So yeah, I'm going with AJ Griffin. Just makes the most sense. I don't think you think too hard on that one. All right, so next and foremost, man, we're talking about my San Antonio Spurs. So this one's going to be a little bit more, not biased, but I don't really have to bring anything up for this, okay? When it comes to the Spurs, I think that they're going to go with someone who's kind of a project, because that's what they've been doing over the past few seasons, but also someone that might potentially be one of the safer picks, okay, on the safer end. And one guy that comes to mind in particular that I think about is a guy that would be willing to come off the bench, a guy that will be willing to fit any specific role, and a guy that has star potential to him. And that player is, let's just listen to him talk.
Teams that, play a team system as well. Look at, those two type of teams like the Spurs, the Warriors, the Kings, it's just to name a few. They play more of a team style. Greg Popovich has been the coach for, however many years, and he's played the same style. So I know if I play in that team, I'm going to benefit because that's the style I like to play. That's the style I'll fit in with. And
there we go. That's all I need to hear. That's all I need to hear. So yeah, I'm going to obviously go with your boy Dyson Daniels. Now, this is not necessarily something, I had to take my bias out of it. This is not necessarily something that I would absolutely really want, but it is a pick that makes the most sense as far as what the Spurs typically do, how they've been going about business. And Dyson Daniels is definitely a player that you can fit in any kind of role right now, and he's somebody that you can definitely see developing into some type of star in the future. So while there's other players that I would take over him, I do understand this pick, and this will be a very mature pick from the Spurs, and they make a lot of mature decisions, let's be real. All right, so let's go ahead and go into the next pick. All right, so I am looking at here the Washington Wizards. Now, the Washington Wizards have said, and they're very open, okay? Shepard has said, you always go for the best talent, and there's going to be talent there no matter what. He's just talking about that number 10 spot. So basically he's saying no matter what, we're going to go with talent. Now, I didn't want to just, base everything off of that, because I also wanted to look at, okay, what have they done in the past? And as we can see here, they draft off a position quite often. So I'm going to go with what they need, because as we can see here, ever since 2018, actually even further than that, they've kind of just drafted off of who they need at the time. And if that's the case, then I'm just going to roll with that. So let's just combine the two. Okay. Let's do a little fusion high here. So they want the best talent available, and they also want the position available. And there's only really two players there that I think that you should consider. And I know you've probably been wondering, how the heck has he not come up yet? Well, I have them taking Jaden Ivey. So I literally have Jaden Ivey going at 10, and I know a lot of people would disagree with this and say, no, that's crazy, which I understand that. But the thing about Jaden Ivey as well is there's been so much coming out of the combine of like teams not necessarily being super high on them. So I wouldn't be surprised. And just based on what the tendencies are of some of these teams, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually slipped, which would be nuts. And it's going to be some surprises in this draft. But I have him going at 10. If it's not 4, and Kings are very unpredictable, it will be 10. All right, so let's go ahead and move on from there. Next, we are talking about another, well, this isn't controversial. No, well, the other one was controversial. This one's controversial. This is a controversial pick. All right, so I was looking at the Knicks, and I just wanted to try to see what direction could the Knicks potentially go in. And I was just thinking about Tom Thibodeau, man, because I just love me some Tom Thibodeau. I was thinking about who fits in with Tom Thibodeau. So this isn't necessarily a pick that I would necessarily choose myself, but at the same time, I did want to go with a guy, not necessarily of what they need, but more so than what they would want, what that coaching staff would want. And this is the perfect player for them, in which I have them taking, obviously, your boy Sochan, which, man, Sochan's really talented. I'm sorry. I really like Sochan. But as we can see here, this is just a little story that I want to bring up, in which he was talking about his mom. So he said, my mom used to play basketball, and she always used to tell me defense comes first. She used to tell me if I had a bad game, defense comes first, and the offense will come as you play good on defense. Definitely, it's always been there. And he also goes on to say that with his size and length, he can switch on the 1 through 5. He is very confident. And as we can see here, being a communicator, being loud and a little bit, I thought that said crappy. Oh, he is a crappy shooter. No, but being a little bit scrappy, that makes me the best defender. And man, I don't know. I just have a feeling that this is the type of guy that they would absolutely love over there at the New York Knicks. So you guys let me know what you think about that one. I know that's a controversial one. That's not one that I'm proud of. It's just, tis what it is. So next we have, oh, did I show? Hold on. I gotta show the graphic for your boy. There we go. You like it? All right. Okay. All right. Look, I worked on all of this. I just want to make sure I give myself credit. All right. So we got to talk about OKC once again. In this one, look, they already got their talent guy. They already got the guy that, okay, we're going to fit in. We don't care about position. We don't care about anything else. He's just the best player available in Banchero. So with that being said, I just went ahead and shifted my focus to, all right, well, what's something they could potentially use? What's something they could potentially need? And as it stands, as far as OKC, they're middle of the road when it comes to defense. Okay, very middle of the road. Even when I'm looking at their players, I believe, let's see, SGA, I think he's only averaging a steal per game. Yeah, about a steal per game. And then when you have your boy Bazley, he's only averaging a block per game. And overall, their defense, as I said, is very just middle of the road. So you want somebody that's kind of disruptive, somebody that can help out your defense quite a bit. And there's one player in particular that comes to mind for me, in which I really wish I could have him, is Tari Eason. So I have OKC taking Tari Eason with their second pick. Those are some really great picks. I'm sorry, man. Banchero and then Tari Eason. That would be sick. Okay, but anyways, that's who I have them taking there. Now, next, we have the Charlotte Hornets. So we have to really talk about this because, once again, I'm kind of cheating on this one. So I looked at who they've been interested in, and Abaji was one. They also been very interested in Tari Eason, which he would have already been gone. And I said, well, why don't I just say Abaji? Maybe they'll take Abaji. And then I thought, no, I have to cheat on this one because honestly, they've been very, and I mean very good in their front office as of late. They've made some really good decisions, and I think that they'll just make the best possible decision for their team right now. And the best possible position, in my opinion, for their team right now would be none other than Jalen Duren. So I have the Charlotte Hornets taking Jalen Duren at number 13 and not looking back. And that's one that I just had to cheat on because I'm like, I'm not going to buy into that they'll go after Abaji. I don't know. I don't know about that. But with that being said, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I read up on the Cavs, and there's a few things I just want to bring up that I did not know about. So apparently quite a few teams felt as if they could get over on their GM, in which we can read here. At any rate, the trade offers for Nance, this is talking about Larry Nance back in the have been there all offseason, but according to Hoops Wire sources, none have been very good. In fact, it appears that other teams are still in let's see if we can rip off the Cavs mode. So this is about 9 months ago. This is a while ago, and I'm sure it's not still the case now, but it's just something where I was like, you definitely got a chip on your shoulder, man. You want to make sure you make a really good, sound decision. And I was thinking, well, what if they took Malachi? You know, I've seen quite a few things on that. It showed that they had somewhat interest in taking him, but I was like, that still doesn't, I don't think that's a good pick. I don't think that they'll take that. Especially with the Cavs, I don't think that they've been making really bad decisions thus far. And this is just one where I'm like, do you want a DeMar DeRozan type player, you know, with less athleticism? I don't know if they'll take that. But then I said, you know what? I'm just going to go with what makes the most sense for them as well. Once again, I'm cheating. I'm going to go with Abaji because I saw this even that he really wants to play for the Cavs. So if you read here, it makes sense for their team. And he wants to play there. So I would love to be drafted by any team. I always dreamed of just playing in the NBA. In terms of my favorite team right now, I would say the Cavs are up there. They just got a lot of dogs and are very fun to watch. So I'm just going to go with this. I think he would fit in perfectly with that team anyways. And on top of it, I think that they made some pretty sound decisions over the past season or two. So I'm just going to go ahead and cheat on this one and say that they take dun, 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 dun. You already saw it, but I just want to put the display on there. There we go. Abaji. So I have them taking Abaji. So these are my picks. I really want you guys to give me your thoughts because I know some of them are going to be like, what? I mean, especially Jaden Ivey. I think most people are going to be like, Jaden Ivey going down that low? But as far as things that's coming out of the combine, I'm just going to make that assumption. I don't know. What? I'll keep with you guys later. If you want to support the channel, only $2 a month. Patreon and YouTube members, link in the description. Thanks for all the love. Until next time, deuces, man.